श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः. श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः. हरि ओम. ओम सुखं नित्यं स्वप्रकाशं प्राप्तं नामरूपयोः अधिष्ठानं बुद्ध्यबोध्यं बुद्धेर्दृक्यत्तु निर्मलं वेदान्त वेद्यं प्रत्यक्परं मह तदेवाहं न मत्तोऽन्यत् इति मे निश्चिता मतिः. So we were seeing fourth Taranga and 197 Avarta. Okay, 197. Aham Brahma iti abhasasya jayamanam jnanam mithya syaditi akshepasya ashya udghatanam. So the 197 is a doubt presented by the disciple. He said, Aham Brahma, I am the self. This knowledge takes place to whom? It cannot take place for the self, because self is eternal. There is no change. So changeless, it cannot take place in self. If it takes place to the mind, then there is no point, because mind is not self. It cannot see, I am the self. So that is impossible. So the what we say is, it takes place for the Chidabhasa, for the Abhasa, the reflected consciousness. When we explained, we made it very clear that there are two self. One is the reflected consciousness, and the other is the original Bimba and Pratibimba. Okay, so we have the Bimba and Pratibimba, and we told the Pratibimba and Bimba, this is consciousness, whole box is consciousness, and the reflection in the mirror is the Chidabhasa. So whichever way, we said very clearly that they are not different. They are not different. Okay, so he says, Aham Brahma iti abhasasya jayamanam jnanam. Or if you take the two examples of the pot space and the reflected space in the pot, the cloud space and the reflected space in the cloud. Okay, so in that way, then we have two images, reflections. So in both, whether it is Jiva or the Ishvara, in both, the substratum is not different. That's the idea. Okay, now the Abhasa, the Chidabhasa is what is gaining the knowledge, I am the self. So that knowledge is not real. Chidabhasa is reflected consciousness. How can the reflected consciousness identify itself with the original? So that is the doubt of the disciple. Gudabhisandhi sishyah swa abhisandhim udghatayati. This Shishya, this disciple, is one who has the knack of inquiring into the subtleties. So now he has inquired into it, and he is presenting that doubt. Hey Swamin, Sadguru, O Lord, Sadguru, Kutasto Brahma Abhinnaha. I am just summarizing what you said. Kutastha is a Brahma Abhinnaha, is not different from the self. Kutastha is not different from the self. Okay. Abhaso Brahmano Bhinna. And Abhasa, the reflection, is different from the self. Kutastha is not different from the self. With reference to the Jiva, we said that the base is Kutastha. Okay. That Kutastha is not different. The Abhasa is different. The reflection is different. Okay. Iticha Pragupadishtam. This is what you said earlier. Tatra Brahmano Vibhinna Swabhavasya Vibhinna Abhasasya Aham Brahma iti Brahma Abhinnatva Jnanam Naiva Ghatati. So the Abhasa, the reflection, is different from the reflected. So the reflection cannot identify itself with the reflected. Abhasa, the reflection, cannot see itself to be the reflected self. Okay. Mama adhisthana bhuta kutastho brahma iti jnanam yadi abhasasya jayeta tad yathartha jnanam bhavet. Na to aham brahma iti. But If the abhasa, the reflection, sees itself to be not the self, but for me, the substratum is the reflected, the consciousness of absolute self. The reflection cannot say, I am the reflected, but it can say that my substratum is the reflected. The substratum is the self. I can understand that. There is no problem there. Okay. Nato aham brahmeti jnanam. But it can never identify itself with the self. Aham iti shabdah swakiyam nijam swarupam avagamayati. Because the word I, the very word I, refers to the inherent nature of self. When I say I, that I is inherently referring to the self. We have different I's we saw. We say I, the ego. I did it. Ego. In the dream, there is another I, the dreamer I. And the superior I is this. So this I-ness is what is seen in the other states. The I of the self is what is seen in the other states. We'll come to this again. So, how is that? We'll come to that again. Thus, abhasasya nijam rupam swarupam tu mityaiva. And abhasa, reflection, is just a reflection. It's not real. When we stand in front of the mirror, the image which you see, though you identify yourself, oh, how did you slap my image? How did you spit on my photo? Because we identify ourselves with that photo or that reflection. But in reality, it is not me. So he says the reflection always is illusory. It is accepted to be illusory. Ata eva ayam brahmano bhina. Therefore, I am real and the reflection is illusory. Therefore, I cannot be one and the same. The reflection and the reflected cannot be the same. Tasmat brahmano vivinnasya abhasasya aham brahmeti swasya brahma abhinnatva jnanam mityevasya. Therefore, the abhasa, the reflection, seeing itself to be the reflected, I am the self, is a illusory. It cannot be real. There is a story which they say to explain this. There was this fellow who came to his guru, and I keep repeating again and again, guru is one who removes your ignorance and not imposes his own ignorance on the disciple. That is one. Second, whoever may be the guru, if he is not teaching, whoever may be the disciple, if he is not teaching the truth, he cannot be accepted to be the guru. He is not guru. A guru is one who should have to teach the truth, not anything else. So this disciple, he comes to the guru, and the disciple is not a learned man, he is an illiterate. He loves his cow a lot. So the guru tells him, okay, he tries to teach him, I am the self, I am the self. He cannot understand what I am the self. So he teaches, you love your cow, right? You are your cow. Okay, meditate on that. He puts him in his heart and he is letting him to meditate. I am the cow, I am the cow, I am the cow. And after a week or so, the guru knocks on the door and tells him, come out. He says, no, I cannot come out. Why? My horns are getting blocked by the door. My horns have grown so big. So instead of identifying yourself with something else, you identify yourself with something else. That is the problem. So here he says, iti sarpad vilakshanayam rajvam sarpa iti jnanam yatha mithya. I cannot take the snake because the snake is confiscated. So, so the rope which you see as snake, If you see the rope as rope or snake as snake, there is no issue. But if you see the rope as snake or snake as rope, there is an issue. So he says, the knowledge of rope on the snake is illusory. Similarly, this also is illusory. Seeing something else, something else. Seeing whatever is as it is the real knowledge. Seeing whatever is as something else is illusory knowledge. Whatever it may be, does not really matter. However, pure or pious or superior that may be, does not really matter. That's illusory knowledge. So, mithya nama. What is mithya? We keep illusory. We repeat the word illusory. He says bhranti, erroneous knowledge. Illusory knowledge is erroneous knowledge. So, Vedanta pramanajanyamidam brahma vidyanam. So, he's touching the root of the problem. Now, the final statement, the disciple says, touches the root of the problem. He says, Vedanta pramanajanyam idam brahma vijnanam. This brahma vijnana, the knowledge of the self, we keep repeating again and again. It is Vedanta pramanajanya. Pramanajanya jnanam. Pramanajanya jnanam. What pramana? Vedanta is the pramana. Pramana, we know, means of right knowledge. So, this knowledge, which is generated by a pramana of Vedanta, Bhranti Rupmiti Vaditum na shakyate, cannot be said to be erroneous knowledge. A knowledge which is produced by pramana is a prama, right knowledge, not erroneous knowledge. And that too, that which is produced by Vedanta cannot be erroneous knowledge. In other places, pramana can lead to Brahma also, erroneous knowledge also. Like I see today afternoon, I said I'll come for tea at 4 o'clock. So I woke up. I went to sleep at 1:30 or so. I woke up and I saw, I could not open my eyes actually. I saw it is 3:08. Okay, 10 more minutes. 3:15. Still I could not open. I said, okay, 3:15, it's already, I have to take bath and all that. I came out, took bath and everything. I still felt tired. I went and checked mobile for something. And on top of left top, the time, it shows something like 3 something. What is this? I zoomed it on. I found it is 3:08 now. That was 2:08 which I saw. So, my pramana, the means of right knowledge, the eyes cheated me. It can happen. The pramana can produce erroneous knowledge, but Vedanta as pramana can never produce erroneous knowledge. It can never say that Vedanta produced erroneous knowledge. Vedanta is to remove the bheda. Bheda anta. Bheda means duality. That which removes the duality. You cannot say it superimposes duality again. So, for that the answer is 198 avarta. Aham shabdasya dvau artho. Tatra kutastasya brahmanah mukhyam samanadhikaranyam. Chidabhasasya badhayam samanadhikaranyam. The word I said I as in ego, I as in dream, I in the self. 3 kinds of I's. Here he says, when I say I, there are 2 meanings. Aham shabdasya dvau artho. There are 2 meanings for the word I. What are they? Kutasthasya brahmanah mukhyam samanadhikaranyam. Chidabhasasya vadhayam samanadhikaranyam. With reference to the Kutastha, the Brahma, Kutastha means that which is changeless, like an anvil. Kutavat sthita iti Kutastha. Like an anvil, it does not change. That is Kutastha. Now, that Brahman is that which is changeless. With Brahman, the I is in Mukhya Samanadhikaranya. Okay? Samanadhikaranya is one word, which is the key word. I am adding an adjective of Mukhya. Primary Samanadhikaranya. Okay, let us come to Samanadhikaranya later. Primary Samanadhikaranya. And Chidabhasasya Badhayam Samanadhikaranya. With Chidabhasa, the I is in Badhayam Samanadhikaranya. Badhayam means in negation. Samanadhikaranya primary. Samanadhikaranya in negation. The I is associated with two things. One is with Kutastha Brahma. That is primary Samanadhikaranya. It is associated with the reflection. That is in Badha. What is associated? I. The word I is associated with the meaning of the word I is associated with the reflection. That is in the sense of Badhayam Samanadhikaranya. Negation Samanadhikaranya. First, what is Samanadhikaranya? Samana adhikarane jatamiti samanadhikaranya. Samana means equal, same. Adhikarana means substratum. That which has same substratum is a samanadhikaranya. That which has a same substratum is called a samanadhikaranya. Samanadhikaranya, the word itself is generally established in the sense of, you have to understand the word Samanadhikaranya for understanding Vedanta. This is a very important word. Like every time I say, this is important here. Why? When you say Tattvam Asi, Tattvam Asi is in Samanadhikaranya. What is Samanadhikaranya? Samana Adhikarane. Adhikarana here is a Samana, same platform or same base. Here is a same declension. Tat is in singular, first case singular. Tvam is in first case singular. So they both are in same adhikarana. Okay, that is not just the interpretation of Samanadhikaranya. Not just the same declension. It should also have same meaning. A word which has same declension and same meaning, when they are put together, that is called as Samanadhikaranya. Now, so there are two Samanadhikaranyas. Two words giving the same meaning. Tat gives the same meaning. Tvam gives the same meaning. That is self. You, the substratum is self. Finally, it boils down to self. So, they both give the same meaning. Therefore, this is the Mukhya Samanadhikaranya, the primary Samanadhikaranya. Okay? Samanadhikaranya means a word with same declension and same meaning. Words with the same declension and same meaning, that is Samanadhikaranya. So, now here, Tat, Tvam, they are in Samanadhikaranya. Mukhya Samanadhikaranya. Primary Samanadhikaranya. Then, there are some places where you will equate something as something. Like in the karmas, there is a word called Aditya Yupaha. There is a statement Aditya Yupaha. Aditya means sun. Yupaha means a pillar. The sun is equated with the pillar. Or Simho Manavakaha. The student is equated with a fierce lion. The student is sharp. That is the idea. But to say that Simho Manavakaha, we are not saying I am teaching a lion. No, he is a student. But he is very sharp like lion. That is the idea. That there the Samanadhikaranya is Badhayam. It is not completely equal. So, okay. Now, hey Saumya. So, the Guru is explaining the difference between these two Samanadhikaranyas. Hey Saumya. Aham Brahma iti jnanam buddhi sahita abhasasya eva jayate natu kutastasya. When I say I am self, this knowledge takes place only for the reflection and not for the substratum, the kutastha. When I say I am self, the knowledge does not take place for the self, kutastha, but it takes place for the reflection. But how can reflection see itself to be reflected? Good question. Simple. I said I'll explain it later with reference to the previous topic. Okay. Pot. Okay. What is the cause for pot? Clay. We know that. The cause for pot is clay. Very good. The cause for clay, the cause for that, finally you will boil down to atom. Right? So when I say this pot is made of atoms, is it wrong? No. Pot is made of atoms. But instead of saying pot is made of atoms, I say the immediate cause, not the final cause. I just say the immediate cause, not the final cause. Similarly, here he says the knowledge which takes place, I am the self, that takes place for the immediate problem, not for the final. Let's see. Tathapi sa abhasah kootastham swaswarupam cha ekikritya swatmataya aham iti janati. So that reflection, abhasa, that chidabhasa, he sees himself, its own nature, and the consciousness. Identifying the inherent nature and the consciousness, it sees I am self. Chidabhasa, abhasa, the reflection sees the identity between itself and the self. By finding the identity, by making it a non-different, it sees it to be self. How's that? That's acha. तथा च कूटस्थसैज चिदाभासः अहम् इति शब्देन गृह्यते इति स एव अहं शब्दार्थः. So when I say I, what I mean basically is not the reflection, not the reflected. When I say I, it does not purely mean the reflection or the reflected. Okay. Let us forget about that. When I say pot, what do I mean actually? When I say pot, there is always the is, pot is, the isness always existing with reference to the pot. What is that existence? Consciousness. When I say pot, invariably what I say is a pot associated consciousness. When I say pen, invariably I mean pen associated consciousness. I don't have to spell it. When I say pot or pen, whatever object, I always see it in association with the consciousness. Right? Similarly, when I say I, the abhasa, I always associate it with the kutastha, consciousness. I, the reflection associated consciousness. Pod associated consciousness. Pen associated consciousness. I. What is I? The reflection. Reflection associated consciousness. Everywhere, without the association with consciousness, nothing can exist. We know this. So he says, Tatra ahamiti shabdena pratiyamanam कूटस्थस्य सर्वदा ब्रह्मणा सह अभेदः सिद्ध एव. Now, when I say aham, what I mean is kutastha. And when I say Kutastha, what I mean is self. With reference to the Ishvara, I say the substratum is Brahman. With reference to the Jiva, I say the substratum is Kutastha. With reference to Ishvara, I say the substratum is, with reference to Tad, I say the substratum is Brahman. With reference to the Tvam, I say the substratum is Kutastha. And the Kutastha and Brahman are identical, they are not different. Just as I say the reflection of space, the stars, etc., in the cloud space, the water. Cloud space means in the water of the cloud. And the pot, the water reflection in the pot. So when I say the water is common in both places, similarly here also the Kutastha and Brahman are not different. They are one and the same. In different viewpoints, we see it as different. Like a person is treated as father by his son and as son by his father. Same person. So he says, this is established. Kutastha and Brahman are identical. This is already established. Yatha ghatakasha mahakasho abhedah sarvada siddha tatvat. Like the pot space and the absolute space, the identity is always established. The space inside the pot, inside and outside, it's not just inside. When I say pot space, it is not just the space inside the pot, it is also the space which is covering the pot, inside, outside. So that pot space and the absolute space, they are one and the same. We know this. So he says, through this very logic, aneneva hetuna Kutasthasya brahmanah saha mukhya samanadikaranyam vedanta shastrena abhidhyate. With this very logic, the Kutastha and Brahman are accepted to be in Samanadhikaranya. And this Samanadhikaranya is the primary Samanadhikaranya. Primary Samanadhikaranya. When I say Kutastha, Brahma, Kutastha, they are both in singular. Kutastha and Brahma, they are both in singular. So, and they have the same meaning also. When a word is declined in the same declension and it has same meaning, then that is called as a Mukhya Samanadhikaranya, primary Samanadhikaranya. Okay, now he is simplifying it. Yasya vastuno yena vastuna saha sada abheda sambandho asti tasya vastunaha tena vastuna saha mukhya samanadhikaranya muchyate. He is giving the definition for samanadhikaranya. I have given you the explanation for samanadhikaranya. Samanadhikaranya means same declension and same meaning. Here he says, whichever object is seen to be identical with whichever object. Whichever object is seen to be identical with another object. That object is in Samanadhikaranya, primary Samanadhikaranya with the other object. If object A and object B are seen to be identical, then we say object A is in Mukhya Samanadhikaranya with object B. Object A and object B, if they are identical, I say object A, I say object B. Two different sides of the same thing. Here I am saying two different signs for the sake of explanation. This is not even two different signs. They are one and the same. I see it as object A and you see it as object B. So that is when I say this, then that if that object A and object B are identical always, not for a particular period of time or in one place, always. Then we say object A and object B are in Mukhya Samanadhikaranya. Mukhya Samanadhikaranya means primary Samanadhikaranya. Primary Samanadhikaranya means they have the same meaning. They are identical. They are one and the same. Okay? So, यथा घटाकाशस्य महाकाशेन सह अभेदस्य सत्वात् घटाकाशो महाकाशे एव. He is giving the example like the pot space and the absolute space are identical. Therefore, pot space is absolute space. If I say pot space is absolute space, there is no problem. If I say absolute space is pot space, there is no problem because they are identical. I can say pot space is absolute space or absolute space is pot space. Same. Whichever way I say it is same. There is, see, they say, like there are two examples. One I have already said somewhere. You can say, I know the president. You can threaten people. I know the president. But that does not mean the president knows me. So there is no Samanadhikaranya here. If I know the president and president knows me, then there is a Samanadhikaranya. So here he says, the primary Samanadhikaranya means it's just a case. Primary Samanadhikaranya means I should be the president. I know the president because I am the president. That is a different thing. That is Mukhya Samanadhikaranya. So I can replace I with president or president with I. You can refer me to as I, or I can refer myself to as I or president. Okay. So he is Tasmad Ghatakashasya Mahakashena Saha Mukhya Samanadhikaranya. Okay. Itsam Kutastha Brahmanoho Saha Vedasya Satvat Kutastasya Brahmana Saha Mukhya Samanadhikaranya. Therefore, similarly, in this way, Kutastha is identical with the Brahman, the absolute. Kutastha is identical with the absolute. Therefore, they are in Mukhya Samanadhikaranya. In fact, you cannot say they because they are on two different things. You see it as two different things. Therefore, we have to say they are in. Okay? No. Tasmad aham iti shabda bodhyasya kutastasya brahmana saha sada abeda eva asti. So, therefore, the word I, the meaning of the word I, which is the kutastha, which is the Brahman. The substratum, which is the Brahman. Therefore, they are, that substratum, which is Brahman, is always identical. Substratum, which is Brahman, is always identical. There is never a stage or state where they are different. Always identical. Okay. Now, we saw what is Mukhya Samanadhikaranya, primary identical state. There are some places where we use negation identical state. That is what is Badhayam Samanadhikaranya. He is explaining that now. Ahamiti Shabdena Pratibhasamana Chidabhasasya tu Brahmana Saha Swaswarupa Badhapurvakam eva Abhedaha Siddhyati. See, I as Kutastha and I as Brahman is in the primary Samanadhikaranya. I, the Kutastha, with Brahman is in primary Samanadhikaranya. Simply put, I, the Kutastha, with the Brahman is in primary Samanadhikaranya. Now, the second scenario, I, not the Kutastha, the Pratibhasa, the reflection. I, the reflection with the Brahman is not in primary Samanadhikaranya. Then what is it? Is it not in Samanadhikaranya? Everything is in Samanadhikaranya with the absolute. There can be nothing which is not in Samanadhikaranya with the absolute. There are different stages of Samanadhikaranya. That is the thing. What is the stage here? We call it Badhayam Samanadhikaranyam. What is Badhayam Samanadhikaranyam? He says, Tasma Vedanta Shastreshu Abhasasya Brahmana Saha Badhayam Samanadhikaranyam. That is why in Vedanta Shastra, we accept the reflection to be in identity with the absolute in the sense of Badhayam Samanadhikaranyam. Mukhya Samanadhikaranyam we understand. Primary Samanadhikaranyam means they are identical, absolutely at all point of time. Badhayam Samanadhikaranyam means not identical absolutely. What is the clause here? So he says, yes, he vastunaha Surupanasha Purvakam Yena Vastuna Saha Abhedaha Jayate. Okay. So there are two objects, object A and object B. Object A is same as object B, then I say the primary Samanadhikaranya. Object A, when trimmed or destroyed, becomes object B. Then I use the Badhayam Samanadhikaranyam. So, what is that? He says, Yatha. Yasya Vasuna Surupnasha Vasuna. Yatha, example. Mukha Pratibimbasya Swarupa Badhak Purvakam Mukha Rupa Bimbena Abhedasya Drishtatvad Pratibimbo Mukham Eva Na Anyat. See, you have a mirror. Okay. I see my reflection in the mirror. I see the reflection in the mirror. Now, Mukha Pratibimbasya, the reflection, I cannot destroy the reflection, but I remove the mirror, the reflection which was seen in the mirror. Does it go along with the mirror? Then that is a horror movie. That is not reality. So, if the mirror is moved, is removed or destroyed, then what happens to the reflection? It merges with the reflected. When the water is removed, the reflection of sun in the water merges with the reflected, the original. So, the reflected sun and the reflection sun, the original sun and the reflection of sun, are they different? No. But they are different in the sense that is reflected, this is reflection. Only till you have the water reflection, for the medium of reflection. You remove the medium, then it is identical. Badhaya means a negation, removing. Removal of water, whatever is limiting that identity. Mukhya Samanadhikaranya, primary Samanadhikaranya establishes A to be identical with B. Badhayam Samanadhikaranya establishes the identity between A with B by removing the medium, whatever is preventing the identity. Without any removal, A becomes B, that is primary Samanadhikaranya. By negating something, if you are establishing A to be identical with B, then that is Badhayam Samanadhikaranya. Badha means to remove, negate. That is the sense here. Yathava, or he is giving another example. Sthano Purusha Brahma Anantaram Vicharat Sthanutvena Jnane Sati Purushaha Sthanureva iti Purushasya Sthanunasaha Badhayameva Samanadhikaran Jayate. Now, I see a pillar there or a tree trunk. From distance, because of our poor eyesight, we know now, we see it as a person. Okay. Now, this is the advantage here. when I say something, some example, then everyone will think he's talking about the other person, not me. Now, with this example, everyone will know it is about me. So, I'm not talking about you people, I'm talking about myself. Okay. Now, you see at farther distance a pillar or a trunk, and you see that instead of seeing it as trunk or pillar, you see it as a person. On close observation, you understand that it is not a person, it is only a trunk or pillar. Okay, that is what it is. Sthano Purusha Brahmanantaram. After seeing the pillar as a person, Vicharat, you observe it closely, you inquire it, there is no movement, etc. Half an hour you have to wait, looking outside in darkness at night. At 9 o'clock. Shh, don't talk. There is a deer outside. And there is no movement. For half an hour, without movement, 3 people are standing there at the gate, looking at the deer. See, there is a ear. Yes, I can see the ear. There is a slight movement of the ear. Don't make sound. Shh, shh, shh. Okay. There. After half an hour, then I had a doubt. I took a torch and saw that is an arca plant. The leaf looks like a ear. After half an hour, there is a badhayam samanadhikaranyam with the tree. We understand it is a plant and not a deer after half an hour. Okay. Now, this example we will never forget because we have experienced. Okay. So, when you, after inquiry, close observation, sthanutvena jnani, when you understand it to be a plant or a pillar, purushaha sthanureva, you understand that deer which I saw is only the plant. The person I see is only the pillar. That knowledge, Purushasya Sthanunasaha Badhayam. There the identity with the person and the pillar or the plant and the deer is in the sense of Badhayam Samanadhikaranya. Now we understand what Badhayam Samanadhikaranya. Because primary Samanadhikaranya is easy to understand. Because the sense, in every sense, they are one and the same. Badhayam Samanadhikaranya. Negation of Saman. Negation. Once you negate, it becomes Samanadhikaranya. This is little difficult to understand, but with the example of plant and deer, we will never forget Badhayam Samanadhikaranya. Right? So, Tatha, similarly, now that is example. Example is the plant and the deer, or the pillar and the person. Now the exemplified. Similarly, Abhasa, with respect to the Brahman, Badha Anantarameva. Once you negate the Abhasa, then with the Brahman, once you negate the reflection, the medium, with the Brahman, it is one and the same. That is what is the Badhayam Samanadhikaran here. Okay. Tasmat aham iti shabda bodhya abhaso brahmaiva na tato anyah. Therefore, when I say I, the meaning of I is a Brahman, not anything else. When I say I, stripping all the other ideas, ultimately it refers only to the self, not anything else. Abhasasya brahmana saha idrisho badhayam samanadhikaranyam sambhavati. So, in this way, the abhasa, the reflection, also can be identical with the reflector in this idea by negating the reflecting medium. Okay. Hey Soumya, इत्थमेव अहमिति शब्दगम्य कूटस्थस्य ब्रह्मणा सह मुख्य अभेदः आभासस्य बाधायाम् अभेदः. So Samanadikaranya, this word is very confusing. So he's making it very simple. Abheda, identical. So the Kutastha and Brahman are primarily identical. And the Abhasa, the reflection and the reflected, they are in Badhayam identical. By negating whatever needs to be negated, they are established to be identical. Okay, so this is the difference. The identity, when it is directly established, then they are primarily identical. The identity, when they are indirectly by removal of something, the medium, if it is established, then they that is called as a Badhayam identity. Okay. Now, Avarta 192 to 199 to 218. Kutastha abhasayoho aham vritto bhanam kim kramena uta kramam vina iti vicharah. Now, Kutastha and Abhasa. Kutastha and Abhasa. With reference to the Jiva, with reference to the Ishvara, there are two reflecting medias. One reflecting the Ishvara, we'll forget about the Ishvara, we are talking about the Jiva. So, the reflecting media, this is called as Kutastha. This whole box is called as Kutastha. The reflecting media is a Avidya. And the reflection in it is the Chidabhasa. This is the whole thing is Kutastha. This is Avidya. Mirror is Avidya. And the reflection of the box in the mirror is a Chidabhasa. Okay? With reference to the Ishvara, this is Brahman. Not used for a long time. This is Brahman. Then this is Maya. The reflection is a Ishvara. The reflection here of Brahman is Ishvara. Okay? Now, we are not worried about this big box. We are worried about the small box. The Kutastha getting reflected in the mirror, Avidya. Now he says, so that Abhasa and the Kutastha, the box itself, the reflection in the mirror, the reflection of the box in the mirror and the box itself. So this is the doubt. What is the doubt here? He says, Aham vrittau bhanam kim kramena uta kramam vina. When I say I, the thought function of I, the thought of I, in the thought of I, there are two things. One is, when I say I, it refers to the reflection as well as the reflected. We saw how it is with reference to reflected and reflection. You understand? I, what does I mean? I mean the absolute self, Kutastha. That is in primary Samanadikaranya. What does I mean? I mean the Chidabhasa. That is in Badhayam Samanadikaranya. By removing the reflecting media, Avidya, it is identical with the Kutastha, the Brahman. Now, the thought function of I takes place. The meaning of I is both the reflection as well as reflected. That is what we have to remember. When I say I, it is also the Chidabhasa. It also refers to the Kutastha. It refers to the Chidabhasa, the reflection, and the Kutastha, the reflected. Okay? Now, when they say I, the thought function of I arises. In that thought function of I, does it sequentially? First, it will understand the reflection and then the reflected, or at the same time. When I say I, it refers to both the reflection and reflected at the same time. Understand the question? When I say I, does it first understand the reflection and then the reflected? An order, sequence. or at the same time. When I say I get the knowledge of reflection and the reflector at the same time. How does it happen? He says, Kramam Vinayati Vichara. That is what is the inquiry. Question. Prashna. 199 Prashna. Yes, Swamin, O Lord. Aham vrittau Sakshi Chidabhasayo Pratibhanam Bhavati iti Bhavata Uttam. In the thought function of I, you said, sir, you said, there is the knowledge of a Sakshi and Chidabhasa. Sakshi and Chidabhasa. Reflected consciousness and the witness. Sakshi, witness the self. Okay, now. Tatra kim tayoho yugapat pratiti jayate uta kala bhedeneti me samshaya. When the thought of I arises, does it grasp both the reflection and the reflected, the Chidabhasa and the Kutastha at the same time, or there is a sequence? First it understands this and then that, whichever, I don't know. First will it understand the reflected and then the reflection, or reflection and then the reflected? I don't know. Some sequence. Is there a sequence, or does it understand it at one at the same time? Tan me bhavan vispashtam bodhyetu. Please explain that to me in detail. That is the question. Avarta 200 to 218. Purva prashtasya uttaram. So the answer to the previous question, 200. Aham vrittau sakshi chidabhasayoho yugavat bhanam. There is no suspense here. When the thought function of I arises, yugapat at the same time, the sakshi, absolute, chidabhas, the kutastha and chidabhasa, they both are grasped. They both are illumined, whichever way you want to say. Pratibhana means illumined. Pratibhanam also can mean grasp here. Okay, when I say I, it does not illumine one and then the other. At the same time, both are illumined. Both the reflection and the reflected are grasped through the word I at the same time. How? So yes, hey Soumya, dear, Vispashtam Sarataram Uttaram Uchyate. This, which I said in essence, in capsule, it takes place at the same time. This I am going to explain to you in detail. Sarataram, that which explained in capsule, Vispashtam, in detail, I'll explain. Uchyate. Shrunu savadhana manaha. What should I do? Just listen to it carefully. Shrunu, listen. Savadhana manaha, with focus. Listen to that with focus. Or listen to what I'm going to say with focus. Etat Shravana Janya Jnana Surya Prakasha Udaya Matrena Gadha Ajnana Rupatamo Nishesham Vinakshati. Okay, what will happen if I'm going to listen to this carefully? Another idea. We understood that the I has two meanings, Chidabhasa and Kutastha. The identity with the Kutastha is the primary meaning. The identity with the Chidabhasa is the secondary meaning by refuting or negating something. We understood this. That's an idea. So, what we are going to show now is that the Sakshi and Chidabhasa are both going to be illumined or grasped by the I at the same time. If I'm going to listen to this, what you are going to explain, I'm going to grasp another idea, right? No. This is not going to give you another idea, another knowledge to say, okay, that is also understood, this is also understood. But what will you do? So he says, Yetat Shravana Janya Jnana. The knowledge which is going to be gained by listening to what is going to be said here, that knowledge is sun, like a sun. Surya Prakasha, Udaya Matrena, like when the sun arises, just by that, Gadha Ajnana Rupa Tamaha, the darkness, the solid darkness which existed till then, that is removed. When the sun rises up, the darkness, solid darkness gets removed. Similarly, this knowledge is like a sun which removes the solid ignorance. Nishesham minangshati. It does not remove it partially, it completely eradicates it. It removes the ignorance completely. That is why he says, Savadhana Manaha Shnun, listen to me carefully. Okay. Hey Shishya. Sakshi Abhasa Ubhau Api Aham Vrittau Yugapadeva Pratiyeta. Sakshi and Abhasa, the self and the reflection, both are grasped by the I at the same time. Vedanta Prakaraneshu Sarvatra Abhasa iti Shabdena Antakarana Sahita Chidabhasa Eva Grahyakya. When we say reflection or Abhasa in the Vedanta, what we mean is the mind in association with the reflection. Antakarana Sahita Chidabhasa. Mind in association with the reflected consciousness. Basically, that is a mind associated consciousness. Okay. Antakarana Sahita Chidabhasa Sakshino Vishayataya Bhati. Sakshi tu Swayam Prakashataya Bhati. This reflected consciousness, this reflection of consciousness with the mind, along with the mind, is perceived as an object for the Sakshi, the witness principle. The mind associated reflected consciousness is perceived as an object for the witness. Sakshi too, how is the witness illumined? Not as an object, self-effulgent. When I say I, the I illumines the mind associated consciousness as an object. But the consciousness itself as not an object, as self-effulgent. That is object, this is self-effulgent. Sakshi is not just witness principle, because when the word Sakshi in the introduction shloka itself, I clearly explained, whenever we say Sakshi, there should be an object, Sakshya. With reference to the self, when we say Sakshi, there can be no object, Sakshya, because Ekameva Dvitiyam, it is one without duality. Okay, so Chidabhasa Sahita Antakarana Vritya na Sakshi Vishikriyate. So this is the idea. Sakshi, the self, objectifies the mind associated consciousness. The self objectifies the mind associated consciousness. The mind associated consciousness does not objectify the self. When I say I, the self objectifies the mind associated consciousness. When we say, okay, at the same time, mind associated consciousness objectifies the self, self objectifies the mind associated consciousness. That's all problem. That is why he says the Sakshi, the self, objectifies the mind associated consciousness, but the self itself is self-effulgent. It is not objectified the mind associated consciousness. That is the difference. We'll see this. ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति।